I'm Briar Wren, and welcome to my quarantine capstone. One of my internship sites is a place called the Sky Center. Now, the Sky Center partners with the New Mexico Suicide Intervention Project. So our main goal at the Sky Center is to reduce youth suicides happening in northern New Mexico and surrounding areas. Suicide in New Mexico for young people, that's identified as 12 to 18, is fluctuating between 1 and 2 in the nation. The reason that suicide is so prevalent among our young people here in New Mexico is because they have a large access to firearms. There is a lot of rural communities in New Mexico, which I will talk about how that interacts with social distance, something that we're also experiencing heavily right now. Firearms, social isolation, there's a lot of poverty in the New Mexican areas, and kids are being left alone because their parents are having to work and raise families, and so kids are just often left with the means to do that themselves. So at the Sky Center, we work with families and family systems in order to try and reduce the prevalence of youth suicide. That's not the only goal of the Sky Center. The overarching goal is just to provide free family therapy to any family. Anyone that qualifies as a family just has to have a child under the age of 22, and they can even be in the womb. Sometimes we would see couples, we would see just a mother with their children, a lot of grandparents and the children that they're raising after their the grandparents and the grandchildren after the parents have passed away due to gang violence, suicide themselves, or incarceration is also a large reason that parents aren't able to raise their children. So the issues at the Sky Center were that of extreme adversity. Families from all walks of life would come to the Sky Center, which was a really unique experience, but it was just really interesting being able to work with families in these kind of systemic models. Systemic family therapy is based on the fact that if one person in the family unit, say the daughter, is experiencing extreme emotional upsetness, then the other members of the system, that family system, are also impacted by that. And at the Sky Center, we always try to allow and enable and encourage the parents to kind of re-harness the system, because we always say that the person with the keys to the car should be the one driving, and that's typically the parents. So working with families was an extremely powerful experience for me, and I chose to base my capstone on 6 toolkit items from the Sky Center's Toolkit for Well-Being. So the Toolkit for Well-Being is based off of the theory and motto that with awareness brings change. So the Toolkit for Well-Being, as I'll go into shortly with these art pieces, is a way for us to empower clients, and it's kind of the toolkit for how to prevent depression and suicide in young people, but I used it for myself as a practitioner at the Sky Center, and it was really helpful for me both clinically and personally. So for my capstone presentation, I will be displaying the 6 small pieces that represent the toolkits from the Toolkit for the tools from the Toolkit of Well-Being. Starting with optimism. Optimism is something that I've always embodied myself, but has been something to really remember in these times. In particular, I have been experiencing a lot of intense stress during the capstone process, but through my internship overall in general. as well as my work life. And remaining optimistic has been something that has been a foundational part of my ability to cope with what's going on. That's only getting heavier as time goes on. So in this piece, I have these kind of swirling images that was really cathartically made one Friday afternoon. And there's these little gems in there to remind me of positivity, and then these clouds, both for the sky center, and then also that like each cloud has a silver lining. So optimism has been something really important, and it's not like the Pollyanna kind of optimism. It's just kind of a reminder of a deep and greater sense of hope. The next tool in the toolkit that was really foundational for me and delving into is self-awareness, something that I've been working on not just at the Sky Center or through this internship process, but at Southwestern in general. So I actually took some of my inspiration from a mask that I had made in the Theories of Art Therapy class at Southwestern, and translated that into kind of this inside-outside box for self-awareness. So on the outside here is this bright, poppy, outgoing, loud foil, or I like to use the analogy of a mirror for this reflective piece here. I think that sometimes I do mirror the personality of the person that I'm talking with, something that I'm working on adjusting so that it's not like I'm trying to adopt their personality, but it's kind of a chameleon way of approaching humanity as a whole, which is something that is beneficial in like social settings, but also been really beneficial for my work with families, because I find that ability to reflect what people are saying and kind of sit with them where they are is a really good tool for building rapport. So that's how self-awareness has been helpful in that sense. But on the inside, it gets a little bit darker and more real, wow, I would say. There's on the outside of the doors is an image of a lionfish, a very beautiful but extremely poisonous fish, which I think is something that I identify with, of just harnessing that self-power. There's this black background painted. Internship has been pretty intense for me, so I've really identified with black and kind of just the intensity that it is. It's a reflector of light. It's just like in its own self and world sometimes. There's a little corner of lavender because I do think that I have a bit of serenity and calmness in me. There are little tacks because I have a pretty intense personality sometimes that can seem a little sharp and biting. I have these little aspects of light and pop and bubble that come over from the outside. There's a variety of eyes that represent some of the internal eyes and lens that I've been adopting, trying to really embody seeing inward. There's these little bottle caps and gems, because I do sometimes like to be the life of the party. And then these little bells, because I'm also extremely loud on the outside and the inside, but I can kind of also just like board that up and be like, okay, who are we going to be? What are we going to do? So self-awareness has been important for me for a variety of reasons. The next tool in the toolkit of well-being is social connection. The Sky Center identifies social connection as being an antidote to isolation, and isolation is one of the factors that go into suicidal ideation and depressive thought. So for me, social connection has been really interesting in observing how it's changed over the past 2.5 years. So I kind of wanted to reflect on that, really. Originally, when I came in, it was like I was very outgoing and able to communicate to a lot of people, so social connection for me was great and bright, and I was able, me being the little stamp back here, able to connect with all of my people in my circle. But as my days have gotten extremely longer and my energy level has gotten depleted, I've been connecting significantly less socially. So there's some purple string in there that it represents the connections that I was then maintaining, and then this black string is kind of the fewer ones that I've had as I've been going through my internship process. That's been pretty interesting for me to reflect on also, because the people that then I was leaning on more, but I wasn't able to lean on as many people, which is something that is kind of out of the norm for myself, and something that I look forward to getting back once I'm finished with this process. I think in an interesting way for me, one of my tools of well-being that I reflected on with this piece was purposeful isolation, because in a lot of ways I was going out into the world and exhausting my body and my process and my ability to process with others, and so I needed to isolate myself from essentially all of my friends, which I'm excited to get back, because I don't want to have to stay there. So the next one is mindfulness. Mindfulness has been important for me because it was just the reminder to slow down, something that now the whole world is doing, which is really lovely. But being mindful has been a tool that I've been able to teach clients. It was a tool that I was teaching kids at one of my other internship sites, yoga in schools, and I was also leading an inner and outer life skills group at the El Camino Real Academy with 5th grade boys. And we did a lot of mindfulness exercises. So in here, I just took yarn and kind of cathartically just went back and forth into these kind of patterns, breath waves in some sense. And there's also little paper straws, because we, with the kids, would teach them straw breathing, which I'll teach you all now. It's a tool that you can use with anyone of any age, and it kind of just like really grounds you and is really regulating to the nervous system. It really taps into the parasympathetic nervous system. And so you want to keep your feet on the ground, and you just inhale and then exhale like you're exhaling out of a straw. We teach kids to do that about 3 times. I brought in straws for my 5th graders, and they really loved just having that tactile and sensory experience to feel calm. So mindfulness for me was a lot of breath work, and there's a little picture of those little wire lungs in there as well to kind of represent that. The Sky Center also hosts these Cultivating Connections, which is a mindfulness-based hour that we have to do every week, which is essentially where we go and meditate with each other. And it was actually really powerful to witness the experience of silence in togetherness and how powerful that can be. And it's something that we've maintained in this virtual reality world that we're living in right now. So we'll get together once a week and breathe, and it's been a really lovely way of maintaining that kind of mindful connection to my peers. I don't know if those will stay. The 5th one was one of the most important for me, which was physiological well-being. This was extremely important for me because it was a way that I could ground in my body when I felt so ungrounded in my world. So exercise became something that was crucial during my internship process, and eating really well was something that was crucial. I would actually meal prep all of my food on Sunday. I would get all of my clothes together for the week because my schedule was extremely packed and the days were really long. And so knowing that I had nutritional meals to fall back on was really foundational and important to my whole entire internship process. I felt kind of neurotic sometimes on Sundays as I was like whipping up all of my meals to try and make sure that I was able to eat nutritional food for the whole time, but that was something that was really, it was super important. The last and most important tool of my toolkit that I utilized and fell back on significantly as often as I possibly could is nature. The connection to nature and the reason that it's a toolkit for the Sky Center is because it also reminds us of this greater connection to things outside of ourselves. And for me, nature is like that in and of itself. I would try and get outside as much as possible, even if that just meant spending 10 minutes in like a parking lot grass part. It was really important for me to be able to be in nature for just a little bit of time every week. My capstone art piece that I made for the gallery is also a reflection of how important nature is. It's made through collage, so it's a little bit different. But here I went on some arroyo walks in my arroyo outside back behind my house, so I wouldn't have to drive anywhere. It wasn't far. And I collected sand and various like colorful layered rocks that I put into this behind this little plastic piece here, because when I went to lay it out and thought that I would be gluing it down, it felt like I couldn't do that to something that's been so important to me. So I wanted to display it in a way that I can go back now and put the rocks and the sand and the feathers back in the arroyo where they came from, and just kind of give reverence to how important nature's been for me. So those are my 6 reflections on the 6 tools of the Toolkit for Well-Being that the Sky Center has come up with. It's optimism, self-awareness, social connection, mindfulness, physiological well-being, and nature.